Welcome to another episode from another point of view. I'm Agnes.
And my name is Alice.
And today we are going to discuss
confidence in all its angles and complexity.
Yeah, it's a very complex subject. So it was actually Alice's idea to dive deep into talking and discussing confidence.
Yeah, it's a massive theme in my current life, I want to say. But also a few weeks ago I posted this video on TikTok on our page about what we've learned so far in a journey of podcasting. And one of the points I said was that it's very important to pick out subjects that we're really passionate about.
Yeah.
And that really made me think about, you know, what I want to talk about and what I'm like what's on my mind, what do I want to discuss. And confidence is definitely one of them. And I guess I wanted to ask you, like, what does confidence mean to you?
I believe that confidence is when your thoughts and your actions aligned, when they're not driven by, you know, like the mask that we put on for the outside world, when we're being really authentic and truthful to ourselves. When we're not leading with this idea of like fake it till you make it. We discussed this.
Yes.
And instead of that, again, being very truthful and authentic to who you are, not just at a surface level, but deep down.
Yeah.
I think the confidence journey, like we're going to talk about it, like it, for me, it started on a very surface level. But then what I've realized that actually work goes so much deeper to like really truly feel confident within yourself.
100%.
How about you?
I think confidence starts when you no longer think, oh, are they going to like me? But you're like fine with people not liking you.
Yeah.
And you're just being your authentic self. I think that is a massive tell that you're confident. And I feel like that's what I strive for, because I've been like a people pleaser and oftentimes wanting to look a certain way to fit in or to not drive too much attention to myself. And now I'm more like into the journey of like, you know, no, I want to be me. And you either accept it or we're not going to be friends, or we're just not meant to connect on a deeper level, and that's fine.
Yeah. And because we talked earlier about, I asked Alice this question. I'm like, it's so interesting how when you're a kid, like all kids are pretty much confident. And I remember being a really confident kid. So I was thinking to myself, like, at what point do we lose that? Like, when does it disappear? Is it when like society sort of would build up all of those, all of this conditioning from society, from our parents, from our culture, from our religion, and that piles up and you kind of like become very disconnected from who you truly are? Like, what's your opinion on that? When do you think that, like, what's your journey with that?
My personal journey, I know exactly when and why I lost a lot of my self-belief and confidence.
Right.
For me, it was my parents getting divorced, and I'm still trying to really understand the feelings that I was going through. But you know, as children, we are feeling the feelings, but we don't know how to explain them, or we don't know who to approach and like how to navigate.
How do you express?
Exactly. I'm just like coming to terms of, oh shit, like
it's actually impacted me in a bigger way than I could have even imagined.
Exactly. And one of the impacts was losing confidence. Yeah, it's crazy how it impacts your whole life.
And when do you like realize, because I remember the moment when I realized that my confidence is like hit rock bottom. And I think it was probably like my mid-20s.
Right.
When I was like, ooh, like I don't really feel like myself, and I'm trying for a lot of people to accept me, and then I'm trying to change myself so that I fit into like certain box that this person created for me, and like people pleasing was a big one.
Yeah.
But also putting like different types of masks according to who you're with.
Yes.
So it's almost like you're creating this persona because you're trying to please everyone around you. And everyone thought, like, if I told people that I'm not confident, like no one would believe me. They'll be like, oh my god, but you walk into the room, you're the most confident person. But it was such a front, and I became so good at doing that you almost like trick yourself into believing.
Right.
At least for me, like I've almost managed to trick myself into believing that I am actually confident.
Right.
So that was a very interesting one, and then it kind of like spiraled, and I was like, ooh, actually, based on everything that's happening in my life, I've just realized that I have zero confidence, and I've really got to work on that.
Right. Yeah. It's such a beautiful moment at the same time. Like, okay, this is not okay. And you can only get like better from there.
Yeah.
I feel like.
Because I totally believed in like fake it till you make it. I feel like for a while it was such a thing that everyone was like, yeah, just fake it till you make it. I don't know, at least like in my mid-20s.
Yeah.
It was like this big thing. And I'm like, of course I can fake it. I'm so good at faking a lot of things. And so you just like put on an act. And I think we're all amazing actors when we really try.
100%. I'm the same. Like, I'm more of I've always wanted everyone to feel comfortable and welcome around me, even if, let's say, I didn't feel like it that day, or maybe like that person wasn't necessarily someone I wanted to connect with.
Yeah.
But I would always want to have this front of like, you're welcome, like, of course, like, you know. And I remember sometimes like going home having a headache because of just how tired I was.
So behind that was like, oh my god, this is so exhausting, this is so tiring, like,
yes.
Where is it gonna end?
Exactly. And that's why I hate it when people say fake it till you make it, because I think you really need to work on yourself to be it rather than
But did you always know that that's going to be the case? Because I like, for me, when I believed very strongly in fake it till you make it, I didn't even question the fact that, you know, you really have to go deep down. And there is a lot that lies underneath. So for me, it was so opposite.
I think I'm trying to like go back in time a little bit and think about it. But yeah, probably in that moment, I didn't think this is wrong. I almost felt like this is the norm. Like everyone's doing it. Like you're supposed to do it. At certain times, like obviously going through like my self-discovery journey in general, I feel like you just become this person who's like, you know, boundaries are okay. Saying no is okay. Not always smiling is okay. And I think through that, I also learned, you know, I need to work on confidence so that I just embody that whole feeling rather than, having a headache every day.
Yeah, true. I want to ask you a question, because when I was thinking about this topic of confidence, I've realized that throughout my journey of becoming confident, it started in a very superficial way, and it started with fashion.
Right.
So I don't know if you can relate to that at all.
No.
Yeah. Because for me, the first steps that I took was sort of using fashion as a tool and using dressing up as a tool. Like I remember, you know, if I wore like a powerful suit or a jumpsuit or something that really made me feel like I started to feel confident.
Right.
So that was kind of like my first baby steps in the right direction. But then obviously once I mastered that, I've realized, okay, I can only go sort of skin deep with that approach, and I have to dig much deeper.
But when you were wearing the clothes that were making you confident, were you actually like feeling
that? I was feeling, because I feel like clothes have a very strong, like, I don't know, there is something behind, I don't know if it's like on an energetic level or like they make me feel a certain way. And I think that's a big part of the reason why I ended up in the fashion industry.
Right.
Because I just saw the power of clothes.
Right.
And I was like, whoa, there is something there. I can't quite explain it. Yeah. And it might not make sense to a lot of people. But for me, it did. So dressing up and wearing certain things, like, for a while made me think, like, really, truly confident within. So that was the first baby steps. But you can only go so far with it.
Right. This is really interesting because I'm totally opposite of that.
Yeah.
Because I felt like if I'm wearing something that's really loud or something that's bold or, you know, showing up, it was almost like, oh, I'm like taking too much space. Like I felt a little bit like maybe I've overdressed. Like, wow. People are looking at me like out of place. Like that was how I was feeling. And now I'm starting to think that it's probably because of like other layers of like what's on the inside of like obviously I've always been a curvy person, and so from that taking space is like a big one.
Yeah, of course.
You know, showing up and you know, feeling like you're beautiful and you can be and you can carry yourself, like that was a massive hurdle in the path of confidence. And I feel like maybe you didn't have that, so you felt like it was a little bit easier from
Yeah,
that
it was total
aspect.
opposite, I guess,
Yeah.
for what you're going through. Do you think, like, would you, now looking back, because I feel like your style and your fashion, like, taste and just, like, your fashion journey has, like, just blossomed?
Can I give a sidebar? Over the weekend, I gave away like half of my black clothes. Like I threw some away, and because they were like, I was just looking. I was like, this is not inspiring. So totally, like my fashion style has completely changed.
Yeah, it's like up from when I've met Alice, we've talked in
Previous
in
episodes.
the previous episodes about it, from when I met her to now, how she's just like a different human being.
So
It's
crazy.
incredible. But do you feel like fashion could help people gain self-confidence on, like, obviously very superficial level?
Yeah.
Still, it could be a good baby step. There's this quote, like, dress for the job you want, not for the job you have.
That's the one. That's what I was thinking. Exactly. Like, I think that can be helpful because it kind of like almost gives you a little bit of a boost of like confidence, if you may, to like maybe walk in a room where everyone else is dressed the same way and you don't feel like you're out of place, for
You're like,
example.
I've arrived!
Yeah, exactly.
I want to touch on one thing. I wrote this quote, which was from the Harvard psychology study. And it says, the brain doesn't differentiate between the real memory and the imagined one. And that's why, like, visualization is so important.
I've had that one, yeah.
And I totally believe in that. I think, like, what you visualize could be really, really powerful. Especially when you're trying to align with something. Obviously, we can't be walking around and be like, I just visualize I live on, you know, like, I don't know where, on like some island that just bought and that's what's going to happen. Like, I don't mean in that sense. But like visualizing even yourself as a confident person, that could really, really help to begin with.
Even like, you know, sometimes I've thought, I've done it with you actually sometimes when we go into like big designer stores and you're not like gonna buy anything necessarily, but you're just like walking around, and I feel like, I don't know, it gives me like such a boost of confidence of like, yeah,
Does it?
I can be here, like I can take space.
I think I gave you, like, I lent you this book by Lisa Lister, and she talks about taking space.
Oh yes,
And
that was such a good book. Read it now.
Highly. But the book is called Presence, and she talks about taking space. And she also talks about it from a perspective of a woman that has a bit of curves. And I just love her work.
It was
So
such a good book.
check it
So
out.
nice to read, honestly.
Check it out.
So obviously we're talking about fashion and everything, which is
Yeah.
very like, is it superficial?
I think it's a little bit superficial. I think a lot
Yeah.
of people, and it's also kind of like surface level.
Yes, that's it. But obviously underneath confidence, there's a lot of different things, like a little shelves
Yeah.
of like things tucked in.
Yeah.
And like for example, I was quite timid and I didn't really like the sound of my voice. I remember at school, people were very like vocal about their opinions, and especially in college, we were like asked to freely speak about subjects, and I was very like I don't know what to say. I'd have no opinions, and I feel like now reflecting back on it, I did have opinions, but I was just so afraid to verbalize it. I was afraid to like sound stupid, and that was all because I lacked the confidence to like be really firm with what I believe. And actually what helped me was that I went to theatre, and I started I was doing drama classes for 3 years, and I remember the first year I was terrible, so bad.
Terrible in what way though?
I was supposed to read the script out, and also I was playing someone who was older, so I was supposed to like use my voice to sound older than I was, like I was 16.
That really makes me want to go to drama classes.
Yeah. Like, I would recommend anyone to go, because I wouldn't be here right now if I didn't go to those
Oh,
classes.
that's incredible.
Yeah. And yeah, like the first year I couldn't do it. We also had to do improvisation. I was like awful. I kept like sweating, just thinking that I need to get up in front of people and like make a fool out of myself, essentially. Just like, you know, being free with my body and everything. And I was so conscious of like every movement that I was doing.
Yeah.
Like when I think back, I was like so restricted just because of my mental blocks. And the second year, it was already better. And the third year, I loved it so much. Like I felt like I was so in my element. We were actually doing improvisation quite a lot in like the second or third year.
Yeah.
And we won like a competition, and I was
Oh my
like
God.
feeling it. I was like coming up with things on the spot. When I think about it, like, I wish I could go back and like do something, because
But it's such a great proof that, you know, even if things are very hard in the beginning, like if you feel it's the right thing to do, like deep down in your gut, your ego might be saying like, absolutely not, this is too hard, like this is uncomfortable. But if you feel it if your intuition tells you like this is the right road to take, like stick with it, no matter how hard it is, stick with it. And then, you know, there's some magic that might happen at the end of that road.
This is true. Like listening to your own voice, what is it saying? Like maybe other people will tell you, oh, this is silly, like, why are you doing this?
Yeah, I feel like as long as it makes sense to you, that's the most important thing. It might not make sense to anyone else, but it has to make sense to you in your head. So listening to your intuition and listening to your inner voice and learning how to express yourself was something that was huge in building your confidence. Like, what else was it that...
What's helped me? I think being honest with yourself and kind of like sitting down and maybe like, I mean, journaling. I've always been journaling. Like, I have so many diaries back at home and everything. I'm just constantly like writing. Like, you start writing about your day, and then it just kind of goes into like the feelings that you're feeling, and it's really helped me reflect on a lot of things and understand myself better. That's step number one, because if you're not honest with yourself, like you were saying as well, when you realize that you've been faking it, or like how I was saying that I was having headaches when I was faking it with people.
Yeah.
Like, once you realize that's an issue, then all the steps,
something
like
has to
steps.
change.
Yeah.
You're like, that's it. Something has to change. Something has to give. I need to rearrange and regroup and find out what works and what doesn't.
Exactly.
The other thing that I want to ask you, when I was thinking about this subject, one of the first things that came to mind was the fact that we live in society where we compare ourselves so much, and that can have a huge effect on our mental health, on how confident we are. I believe that I think I've read that somewhere, that we live in society with a pretty like the saddest or the most unhappy society with the very pretty Instagram pictures. And I totally see that. And I see how a lot of people that I speak to having issues with confidence themselves because of this constant comparison, of this constant ideas of perfectionism that's being presented to us that's not achievable whatsoever. So we compare, we want to be perfect, all of that, and social media plays such a huge part in that. Like, being that social media is a big part of your life, like how do you feel about that?
I feel like it's a very, very sad truth. For many years I was kind of like thinking, oh yeah, but it's like, it's not affecting me,
right?
But now I'm like, yeah, of course it did. Like, of course. I remember quite distinctively thinking, how the hell are people finding the time to do all of those things that they were doing? And actually, like, realizing that it was probably not filmed on the same day, or it was like people who maybe already had, like, you know, earning money through it, so they can afford to have assistants and this and that. And you're just like sitting there thinking, oh, I must be doing the same thing as they're doing. I feel like that was a massive thing. I constantly felt like I can't relax. Like, I need to be doing something. And if I'm not doing something, then I'm like not good enough. And I think that was personally for me the biggest thing. Not so much like visually, I don't think, because I already had like self-confidence issues about like body stuff. So I was like, you can't damage anymore.
The damage has already been done.
Yes.
Like, we can't go any further with that.
Exactly.
In a world of like constant comparison, constant self-doubt, and this ideas of perfection that we can never achieve, I feel like a lot of people kind of get themselves tangled into all of that.
Yeah, I think because social media is basically like highlighting the things that you don't have, or you're wishing for. It's almost like dangling in front of you, like, oh look, I have it, you don't. And it's on a very personal level. It can be anything. It can be looks, it can be physical assets, it can be like someone maybe is more outspoken and they're so articulate, and I don't have that. Like, I have that at some points, because obviously English is not my first language, and I'm just listening to other people speak, and I'm like, wow, they're not saying like every 5 seconds.
Yeah.
At the same time, like now thinking about it, reflecting, I'm like, but I speak 3 languages, you know? So it's like, it's almost like you have to flip a little bit.
You have to flip it. And I find it very interesting how, on one hand, we compare and we have, like what you've mentioned, there's all of those things that we wish we've had. If we flip it, we should really be grateful for all those little things that we do have, that the person that we're watching on this tiny little square might not have. So just think about it before you start comparing yourself to anyone else.
I have a little quote that I wrote out on this little paper about perfectionism, and I thought I would read it out for you. So it says, at its root, perfectionism isn't really about a deep love of being meticulous. It's about fear of making a mistake, fear of disappointing others, fear of failure, fear of success.
I love that. Who said that?
It's by Michael Law. Even like fear of success. Have you ever felt like that? Like you're a little bit afraid of like what's going to happen when like I have this thing that I've wanted.
No.
I have that sometimes because I don't know where it's coming from, but I feel like, oh, like good things are not going to happen to me, or like it's not going to last, like, you know, it's going to come and then I'll fall into a pit. Like, I don't know if it's like culturally where I come from.
Right.
Like conditioning and stuff like that. But yeah, I've like, I'm really quite struggling with that.
I've never felt like that. But I think the reason why I've never felt like that is because I've always had this like innate feeling that nothing really lasts, and this sort of like coming and going, an ebb and a flow of life,
Like a flow,
and everything changes. So
maybe it's attachment then. I feel like
yeah, of course it's related to attachment. It's almost like you're trying to like, we live in a world where we either try to like really attach yourself to something or really kind of digress from something. So we go through those phases when it's just like, you know, you like, I want this and I want this and I want this and I don't want this and I don't want this and I don't want this. And we never in a space when we can just sit down and relax and just see these things pass, come and go. Like everything does.
This is very true and very interesting when you think about it. Like in our society, I feel like we're constantly like chasing little milestones. Oh, now I'm going to graduate, then I'm going to go to uni, then I'm going to have this, then I'm going to have that. And it's almost like if you don't, like if you skip a step or two, it's like crazy. How are you not going to university, for example? Like my partner, he didn't go to uni, and I feel like he's been struggling with that for like a long time.
Oh wow.
And I'm like, not everyone needs to go to uni.
Absolutely not. I dropped out of uni.
Yeah, like, and here you are, striving, like, you know, being great. And it's just like, I say it again and again, but it's conditioning.
It is conditioning, and it's the ideas of society that is being put sort of to us, that this is the way that everyone should be doing things.
Yeah.
And let's not forget, we all so different, and we, like, each one of us has to find their own road that works for them.
Yeah, and confidence is a massive thing.
It is
in this journey.
It is, because like after me realizing that clothes would only help my confidence on like a very superficial level, I had to start digging deeper.
Yeah.
And I had to start sort of understanding what's important to me and what isn't. Like, what are my values? What are my core beliefs? So there is so many things. And also like the work that you do on yourself, it is never ending. Like, and I don't want to say it in a sense of like, oh my God, it's just a struggle. It isn't the struggle. Like, you look at it as this beautiful journey that you're on.
Yeah.
And you're able to discover yourself and learn and grow and expand. So look at it as this like exciting journey rather than just like, oh my God, it's terrible.
Yeah, in the past I've struggled with that mindset.
Oh really?
Yeah, I've really felt like, oh, what now? Like, when can I catch a break? But now I'm trying to see it as more, like you said, it's a journey. You meet different people because of those new life lessons that you learn. I used to think I had this thing in my brain, like thinking, I can't wait to see how I'm going to get through this. It's almost like this exciting feeling of like, I wonder what is my life going to present to me that I'm going to get through this hurdle. And obviously this was when I was younger, and the hurdle was like oh, my friend didn't call me, so I wonder what, like, you know, it was such a
silly thing compared to all the things that you're dealing with now.
And thing like when I, you know, got a little bit older and things started happening that were like really real, I lost that thought pattern in my brain, but I'm trying to get it back because it was really like exciting, you know?
But this makes me think of, I think it was Alan Watts, which I'm obsessed with, but he talks about, I was listening to this lecture the other day, and he talks about how we come into this world with this like awe and wonder and just this excitement and just like everything is new and just you want to discover and you want to learn, and even when you like fall you get up because you're like, shit, I just fallen, like I'll get up and like do it again, and that's so beautiful, and we lose that. And I think at the core I had to learn how to come back to that, how I look at the world through the lens of this little kid that I was.
I've been watching kids. That sounds really weird, but
not like creepy in a park. Just
it happens in a park sometimes. But what I'm trying to say is I've like observed children and the way they are. Like they'll just like jump in a puddle. They won't think, oh, do I have the right shoes today? You know, it's like, I just feel like in the moment, I want to explore this feeling of like excitement in something. And not saying that you need to jump in a puddle, but it's the kind of like you're saying, like just this curiosity and like exploration. And I feel like once you kind of start coming back to your true self, your confidence grows as well. I really want to touch on the subject of like, you really need to find it within yourself. Like no one's gonna come and like throw 100 compliments at you and you will all of a sudden feel very confident from within. Like it is an inside job, and it's a hard job, but it's so worth it.
I think the world that we're living in now of like the wellness and spirituality being $1 billion industries, at least it's in social media, I feel like I'm seeing more and more of this, like do this and do that to be confident, and do this to have self-worth, and do this to be, you know, and it's all kind of like we look for the answers outside of ourselves constantly.
That's true.
So I think unless you take a step back and you realize the answer is actually within, but you have to do some deep work healing work to even like, you know, go in there and start sort of finding what your core values and beliefs are and who you really are, what's like the authentic version of you, not the version that you might have been presenting to the world for the past God knows how many years. And it takes time, and it takes determination and discipline, and it's not easy, and I feel like it's so worth it. It's beyond. But I feel like that's something that isn't really presented to us in social media. It's always kind of like, just take from the outside, you know? Like, I'll give you this and I'll give you that and this will help you. And no one tells you like, no. You've got to like point the finger back at yourself and start looking inwards. Because that's the only like sustainable and real and authentic confidence and self-worth that you're going to find.
I think those tips online are just like a diversion, and you're gonna have to come back anyway.
At some point. I think you're gonna realize, you're gonna try all of those things, and you're gonna realize that actually some of them might help you for a little bit. B, I mean, it's a huge industry of self-help and all that kind of stuff. So I think remembering that you are the only person that has the power to really change your life and shift and find the confidence within yourself. No one else can do that for you. It's an inside job, like Alice says.
100,000%. And how have I only realized that in the last year? I don't know. Anxiety came and was like, Alice, no one's coming.
You've got to do it all of this work by yourself.
So what was like, I don't know if you have any moments in your life that you feel like you started doing something, implementing in your life, actively like searching, that really helped you find confidence again?
My healing journey started in Colombia, in South America, about 10 years ago, doing ayahuasca. So after, like I've mentioned earlier, trying talk therapy and medication and just so many different things, like name it, I've tried it. Nothing was helping, and my mental health was getting worse. And also, I think I was at the point where I wasn't myself at all. I feel like there was not a 1% of me left in me, if that makes sense. So it was a very sad place to be, and I've tried everything, and I didn't know how to, like, start coming back to myself. Like, I didn't know where to begin. Ayahuasca was something that people were talking about. Obviously, it wasn't as popular as it is now. The world of psychedelics is having this renaissance. But back then, yeah, I had some friends that pointed me out sort of in the right direction. I ended up in a jungle in the middle of Colombia for 2 weeks. And that has totally flipped my world upside down. I think a lot of people look at psychedelics as like this party drugs, and it's just kind of like you're having these visions and you're having fun and all of that, and it's very far from that. It's almost like within 6 hours, I was really brought back to who I truly was. But then obviously it takes time to implement that into your life and to integrate everything that you've learned, and that was a huge journey for me. And I also want to really point out that the road that I took, I thought that is going to be something that is just going to fix me. I'm not going to lie. Like, I was one of those people that I thought this is going to be like a magic wand for all of my issues and problems.
Right.
Because again, like, I didn't know that really it's very deep down, and I really have to work on myself. And this could be like, ayahuasca could be like a little crutch that helps me along the way, but it's not going to carry me.
Right.
You know, on that road. It's not going to do that. It's actually going to like help me, like as a crutch, and then it's going to drop me and be like, now you do it yourself.
Interesting. Is it almost like it shows like what you need to be working on?
Yeah, it shows you literally everything that you need to know. At least for me, it did. It showed me everything I needed to know, everything I needed to work on, sort of on like a physical level, like you purge, and it's just very uncomfortable, and it's not a pleasant experience by any means to go through. I had moments when I thought I was going to die, and it's a very, very intense process. But it flips your world upside down, and I think the biggest takeout that I had from it, it has really realigned me with my values, my core values that I've had, almost like as a kid. You know, when you just like, you know what's right for you, and you know what's wrong, and you know exactly what road you want to take, and you listen to your gut instinct and your gut intuition so deeply, and you never question it.
Right.
That's the kind of place that it takes you to. I do want to point out that it's something that if someone sort of told me what I know now, if I could speak to like my, you know,
like present self back then.
Yeah. I would definitely explain to her how to prepare mentally and physically for that experience.
Yeah.
Because I think it's really important. Not just like, I mean, it could have ended really badly. And also I just want to point out that it wasn't like I did it and then everything started to all of a sudden change, and I was like living.
Beautiful.
Yeah, exactly. I saw the light in the end of the tunnel, and I was like, okay, that's it. But it wasn't like that. Actually, a few years later, my mental health was even worse than it was before I did ayahuasca.
Oh, wow.
Because I didn't know how to cope with this whole experience, and then everything piled up, and I didn't know how to integrate it, and it literally, like, I spiraled in really bad way.
Right.
And like before I did Aya, like I didn't think I could get any worse, and then I did. And I was like, okay.
Oh, wow.
So I would highly encourage people to do your research and not to jump into it. And I'm seeing that this is becoming such a popular thing, and people are doing it again with that. I had a very strong intention going into it. Like it felt like my gut, like it was everyone told me, are you absolutely crazy? You're going to Colombia by yourself to a place in the middle of the jungle with no phone reception for 2 weeks. What if you die? What if you get kidnapped? You don't know anyone that you're going with. So like my logical mind would be like, you're absolutely nuts. And a lot of people around me said that, you're absolutely crazy. But then my gut instincts was like, this is the trip you have to take. Like, it felt so right in my gut.
Yeah.
And again, that feeling, like, you can't explain it to anyone. And I go with my gut, because if I don't, like, I'm in trouble.
Right.
So. But yeah, and then the process started with, like, you know, learning meditation and breath work, and realizing how to go inwards sort of by yourself without the help of psychedelics, because we do have a power to do that. It does take work and dedication.
You even mentioned when you went to the 10-day silent meditation that you kind of like feel similar than...
Absolutely. This is the other thing. Like I think when I did a lot of psychedelics, I kind of got to the point when I saw people around me really relying on it.
Yeah.
And I didn't think that was right. I'm like, you can't be relying on things that are so much outside of you when they teach you that you should be looking inwards. It just doesn't make sense.
Right.
So I started to get really interested in breathwork and meditation. And I remember doing my first Vipassana, which was 10-day silent meditation sort of retreat. And that was 3 years ago. And like halfway through it and leaving it, I was just like, this journey was as important as ayahuasca was 10 years ago. Wow. Like it took me back to the same place, but I was able to do it by myself, much slower, while I'm integrating things that I'm learning along the way. I'm not just like thrown in the deep end.
Yeah.
Like I'm actually like slowly taking baby steps and working extremely hard and being very dedicated, rather than just having this 6-hour like out of control trip when it's just like showing me everything. And it's just like, I almost feel like your brain cannot comprehend all of those informations. Like we are just, especially if you're like mentally going through things and you just like it's hard for your brain to kind of cope with like how you feel like mentally and physically what you're going through during psychedelic trip. Like it is hard. And then on top of that, we're so disconnected from our bodies, our mind and our body are just like, they're not together at all. They're in totally separate places. So when you're doing psychedelics, like they have to align, they have to work together for you to be like really in that journey and to trust and to let go and learn from it. And if that's not the case, then you're in trouble.
So do you think doing that 10 years ago really helped your confidence and just like the whole overall journey of like discovering?
I think it definitely started. It's almost like a light spark.
Right.
And
like a matchstick.
Like a matchstick. And I was like, shit. Okay, there's something there. So sort of the road that you have to take.
Yeah.
But still, you are the one that has to work on that road.
I'm not gonna lie, I'm quite scared of psychedelics, so just listening to it is like really interesting and intriguing. Yeah. But like, I think we could do like a whole episode if people were like interested in it.
Yeah, let us know.
Yeah, because you do have a lot to unpack and
a lot of insight.
Yeah, a lot of insight.
And I'm studying psychedelic assisted therapy right now, so
there you go.
So I feel like it's going to be my journey for a foreseeable future, for sure. Yeah. Okay, so what would be your top tip for someone that's on this journey of like, I'm not really confident, I'm really kind of working on that's my priority? What would you say to them?
I want to say show up for yourself. Like do the hard things, the things that scare you, some activity you've been wanting to do, or something that's like solo trip somewhere and it's really like scary, or like maybe it's even as simple as like I've always wanted to wear colorful clothing but I've been like really self-conscious about it. Just start doing it, like really do the hard things, because the more you do those, the more you kind of like you find the self-value, like no one can take that away from you. And it takes time, like obviously it's not going to be, one solo trip somewhere or like one colorful t-shirt and all of a sudden like you're confident. Like it's going to take a while, and I think don't stop at just like one thing, then challenge yourself to do the next thing. Take up things that really will help improve on the things that you think you're lacking in. And over time, 100% you will see the difference in your confidence. Yeah.
I think for me, the top tip that I would give, very similar to you, I think working on yourself, doing the inner work and starting to really, truly looking inwards rather than trying to find things outside of yourself to help you.
So how would you do that? Like through meditation? Or?
I think meditation is the big one. Yeah. Anything that allows you to really discover who you truly are, really discover what your core values and beliefs are, what your weaknesses are. Just really kind of look at yourself from a non-judgmental perspective and be like, who am I?
Yeah, and I want to add to that. I think removing yourself from whatever it is that's kind of like jumbling up your thoughts in your head. So whether it's like social media, maybe like spend less time on it, or be really conscious of like, this is social media, like this is not real. Yeah. So it's very difficult to do, but I think the more you practice it, the more you can like remove yourself from it.
Absolutely.
Then go and like reflect on it. Like, sit down with yourself.
I think just realizing that, you know, we live in a world that hijacks our attention every 5 seconds, and that was my huge takeaway when I went meditating, realizing how much is in my head. And being in an environment when you have like nothing hijacking your attention whatsoever, all you do is sit for 10 hours a day, you realize what you have in your head. And then we adding our own stories into that, and then we like, there's social media, there's TV, there's this, there's that. It's just like we just consume, and it's just like
there's no space or no time to then work on yourself.
But that's the other thing. When people say, I have no time to do this, my sort of reply to that would be, you make time for what's important to you. And if working on yourself isn't important to you, don't make time. But if it is, don't make excuses.
Precisely.
Okay, so this was a very full-on episode, very complex. I think talking about confidence, we can talk about it for hours and hours and hours. This is something that affects everyone on some level. So we're really hoping that our tips and our journeys is something that maybe inspires you. Maybe it's relatable.
And I think we're going to come back to this subject like later again, because it's like a ongoing journey as well. Especially for me, I've only like started stepping into like who I truly am in the last year. So I think there's a lot to discover from my side as well, and surely from yours as well.
Yeah, of course.
We'll probably circle back around.
But I would love to hear like people's tips on what has helped them in their self-confidence journey.
Definitely.
And what's been like something that you really value. You're like, ooh, that really has changed my confidence. Would love to hear it.
Yeah. We'll see you next week.
See you next week.